Good morning. It's Sunday Civics. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. It's the best hour of my week every week. So appreciate your participation in it as well. Sunday Civics, we want to talk about the city of Niagara Falls and how civics works in any city, but we're going to specialize in Niagara Falls. Civics is not government alone. It's everybody in the city. So we frequently like to reach out to people who do business in the city, people who own businesses in the city, the everyday person. We're going to touch on religious institutions in the city soon. And again, we will talk about the issues such as crime, and we'll talk about that on a national basis. So we're going to do that a little bit later in the show. But one of the institutions, and I chuckle because these are fun places. There's fun stuff amongst us that isn't necessarily always in my face. But the institution of music and arts is fascinating. It's a whole world that's just fascinating. And in Niagara Falls, in the North End, near the new train station and the police station, is the Rapids Theater. It's probably been there for 1,000 years. We'll get the information on that. But anyway, the guy that's run it for the past X number of years is John Hutchins. And John has that institutional knowledge of the band came through and broke, only wanted brown M&Ms or whatever. He's got all that, but he's also got what happens in the North End. What's his daily life like? What's going on? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? How do we make it the best place on the planet? So anyway, hopefully this is the first of dozens of conversations with the owner of the Rapids Theater, John Hutchins, who's on my left. He may be on a different screen there, but hey, John, welcome. Thanks for giving up some time on Sunday morning.
Thanks for having me.
So I probably said everything incorrect in that intro, but you do own the Rapids Theater? You do run it? Why don't you tell me how you did that? How old is the Rapids Theater? Was it built before you took over? What's the history here?
It was built about 90 years before I took over. In fact, this year is the 100th anniversary of the building, and we're going to be having a big 100th anniversary concert and party in December. So I hope everyone will look on our website and check that out and be able to attend.
Now, we've talked offline a couple of times, and everybody, hopefully, in their life has been to a concert. But as you describe it, there are arena shows or bands, and before they play, Rich Stadium or wherever, they do tune-up shows at venues that have perfect sound, that somehow an artist knows this is what I want to practice in. You're one such venue on some levels, right?
That is correct. We've developed that reputation among the bands nationwide, and we're on, kind of a short list of what are known as intimate venues that these bands like to play. And it isn't just tune-ups, if you will, before a major arena tour. Sometimes they just come and play because we have that reputation where the crowd. The acoustics are just amazing, and that's just something that I lucked out on when I bought the building. I had no idea. To be honest with you, I didn't know enough about the business at all. My original intent in buying the building was to just lease it out to someone who did know the business. But then it worked out that I couldn't find a tenant. So then I invested a lot of money in redoing the building, and then the rent would have been so high I still couldn't find a tenant. So I ended up getting into the business myself. So that's kind of a short.
I'm sorry.
Short
was
history.
It built like say Shays or the Riviera? It isn't exactly like those places. What was it built for 100 years ago? Vaudeville, talkie films, what?
It was a movie house, and ironically, it was called Shays Bellevue. Now, that was the Bellevue district of Niagara Falls, very high-end part of Niagara Falls at that time. And so when I look at the architecture of the room, I have to believe that it was part of the Shays Buffalo family. If anybody looks at the pictures from that era, it's a grand building. And so when it got purchased by different Well, I'll give you a quick little history. It was Shays Bellevue. Then in the early 60s, it was bought out by another. And it was finished in 1921. So as I said, this is the 100-year anniversary of the building. Then in the 60s, it was sold to another movie company and renamed the Rapids. And that's what it was known as when I was a kid. So when I acquired it, I renamed it the Rapids. But before I acquired it, it had a lot of names. During we'll call it the disco era and all that, that part of Niagara Falls was all nightclubs and bars. And in fact, all of Buffalo used to come, the Buffalo Bills. There was a high-end group of people that used to come down there and party. And then when the drinking age changed to 21, Canada, in its wisdom, dropped their drinking age from 21 down to 19, and all that crowd went across the border, and that end of Niagara Falls became a ghost town overnight. And so a lot of these buildings sat vacant for years, and Rapids kind of turned into, we'll call it an underground nightclub. They would do goth and hip hop concerts that took place after midnight every, whenever they ran a concert. And so then the taxes hadn't been paid. And so that building just sat there vacant for a number of years. And then I bought it at the tax auction.
Right.
So that was in 2007. I reopened it in December of 2009, and we've been open ever since. So that's kind of a short history.
I can always find out what's going on there on the website, Rapids Theater. Is it rapidstheater.com?
Yes, Rapids Theater. Theater is spelled with an R-E at the end.
Right.
Like
is
the
that the
Canadians.
British way, or is that just the artistic way? Why do you do that?
That's the Canadian way.
Because we follow Canada.
Yeah, so we thought it might be interesting and cool just to try to bring people over from Canada.
Yeah.
So, and it's worked, by the way.
So do you have just concerts? I know you do weddings and everything else, but is it always like, what's the vibe inside? Do I have to, cram together with 20-year-olds, or is there, a lounge chair for me, or is it can I have a seat at the bar? Paint me a visual of the inside.
Well, first of all, you mentioned weddings, and I'd like to give ourselves a little tip of the hat. There's a website called weddingwire.com where people go to as soon as they get engaged to look. It's a reference site. And we've received the Couples Choice Award for Western New York every year for the last, 7 or 8 years. But we also received the Top 20 Award, which puts us in a group of the top 20 wedding venues in the entire United States. So that's a review site. We have no input on that. So that means that other people decided that we were one of the top 20 wedding venues. Anyway, to answer your question about the concerts, we hold all different types of concerts. We have a balcony area where we call it our VIP area. Down on the floor, the main floor, it's a combination. Most of the concerts are what are known as general admission concerts. So that means standing, all right? However, for example, Anita West from 97 Rock is a promoter, and she just brought in a series of blues and jazz concerts, which will be seated, okay, on both our bottom floor and our top floor. We're very adaptable. We can do whatever a promoter wants.
Right.
And so during COVID, we had to jump to some local tribute bands. Most of those were seated because that's what the COVID rules called for. But generally for big rock concerts, we're standing.
Right. Okay, let's switch to, the city in which you operate, because as you said, somebody who's just touring loves the name Niagara Falls. They just fell in love with it. They may never have been there, but oh my God, I want to play Niagara Falls instead of Buffalo, instead of North Tonawanda, instead of Wheatfield. That matters. How does the city matter to you? Does it not matter a hoot whether the street is paved or lights, the lights work, or street lights work, or would it be better? What would it be great to have across the street? Slipco's has been gone for 1,000 years. What in an ideal Wizard of Oz world would the Rapids Theater benefit from in the North End?
Well, let me put it like this. I was born in Niagara Falls, so that's always going to be home to me. For all the warts on their face, I love the city, and I'm going to do whatever I can do to try to make it better. In spite of the negativity and the things that people say and do to downgrade it, I'm always going to try to make it better. And I think that if enough of us get together and work to that end, we will make it better. I think we have a mayor now that he also grew up in the city and cares about it. He's been very helpful to us. And he's helpful to anybody who's going to try and make the city better. There was an investment group who bought, I think, something like 39 pieces of property and buildings between the library and the new train station. And then as soon as they did that, COVID hit. So everybody's kind of down on them for not making these buildings better yet. But I mean, nobody could forecast a pandemic. There's never been one in any of our lifetimes. And so now that we're recovering from that, I do believe they're going to do what they said they were going to do, because I've seen them out there walking the street with engineers and architects and all that sort of thing. So it's going to take a little longer, but I think my investment in the Rapids will be well worth it once they get these buildings done. And the plan is just to finish that. The plan is to turn that whole thing into an entertainment district. So we're in the right spot.
I guess, what does that mean? Like, you across the street from you, like North Tonawanda, should it be a couple of bars next to you and another venue across the street and that kind of thing? It's not going to be a hotel or, what's
actually, it is going to be a boutique hotel. It's the old Jens building. Mm-hmm. And at least that's what I've been told, that will be a boutique hotel. There will be restaurants and small, nightclub style bars and that sort of thing. We are right next door to the police station. I have been told that this area of Niagara Falls is statistically the safest area in all of Niagara Falls. So I guess it's the negative connotation that you hear from websites and internet trolls that kind of bring everything down. But I go there every day and I don't see that. I see the positive in things, and it's getting better.
Yeah, I do too, but I'm not negative, but it's not Shangri-La yet. I want it to be that way. I love what it is now, but I certainly want it to be better in my lifetime. I want to debunk this. Everybody's a negative Nelly. Some things suck. How does the Burger King close? How does they just do. Let's not sugarcoat it. We don't have to avoid the negative to want the positive. So I hate to be in the denial phase that it's, stop bad mouthing my city. No, it sucks in some spots. And how do we make it better? There's a new mayor, there's a new everything. There's a new, the who, same boss as the old boss type of thing too, because in economics, you don't eat someday, you eat today, you eat tomorrow. So, I want to move this along. What do you need? And then I want to go help you get it, so that's just it. I don't want to be negative either, but I want it to be better than it is.
Let me correct you on one thing you just said.
The who, correct me on the who.
Burger King is open and has been open. What I think we need is some sort of government funding to get these buildings open. Every one of these buildings is going to take a lot of money. And the problem is banks won't lend on these buildings because they don't. A bank loan is based on an appraisal of the building. Okay, ask me how I know that. It's what I do for a living, or did for a living, and so when it's done, that building might be worth $1 million. But right now, in the condition they're in, a lot of them, they're worth $50,000. So if I need $1 million to renovate that building, there's just no way a bank will give me that $1 million based on a $50,000 appraisal. Because if they have to,
this is great. I agree. But why does the government have to do it? We got rich people, right? Didn't the wealthy man in town, was always a white man, didn't the white person, the wealthy person invest his own money and rehab something and then rent it out and make a profit? Wasn't that business that we learned in college years ago? It seems to have morphed into now the same wealthy person needs my money in order to do anything, and they won't touch it until my money comes in. I guess that's where the rub is for me. If it's worth $50,000, let him pay $50,000. And then let him put in his own money. That's called risk, isn't it?
There's been a series of bad decisions by New York State as well as local politicians going all the way back to the 70s. Okay, when I was high school student and ready to go into college, I graduated from high school in 1971. At that time, there was over 100,000 people in Niagara Falls, and Niagara Falls was a beautiful city. There was a politician called E. Dent Lackey. He was the mayor. I don't know the exact reasons behind his decisions. All I know was he jumped in on a urban renewal program. That urban renewal program gave the city a sum of money. I have no idea how much. I didn't have the interest back then, so I don't know the actual numbers. But he got a lot of money to tear the city down and put new buildings up. These buildings that were being torn down were beautiful architecture. For example, the Rapids Theater was one of three very artistic, very beautiful architecture buildings. The Rapids was on Main Street. These other two were on Fall Street. Now, Niagara Falls had two main streets, Main Street and Fall Street. So the city, Mayor Lackey and the city started demolishing the buildings from Fall Street first, and then were working their way down Main Street when this demolition stopped. And I don't know why they stopped. I don't know if they were out of money or what the deal was. But you may be familiar with Fall Street because if you know where the casino is, Fall Street is the street with no buildings on it, running from the back side of the casino into the city of Niagara Falls. Okay, it's heartbreaking to see what this demolition and destruction happened to Niagara Falls. So, and then the city made a deal with New York State and the Indian tribes to allow that casino to be put up there. And then that took away a lot of tax-paying territory from the city, and everybody that possibly could milked the city for money. And New York State got rich off of it. one or two developers got rich off of it, and the city was left holding the bag. And probably a few politicians got rich. I don't know. As I say, I was in college then. So I went away to college in 1971, 102,000 people. I came home from college in 1975. The city was destroyed and people were moving out right and left. And now there's something like 48,000 people in Niagara Falls. So in my estimation, and this is only my opinion, I have no way to prove it, but I believe that in itself is what caused Niagara Falls to be in the condition that it's in.
Yeah.
And the people who own those buildings on Main Street that are in bad shape right now, they did well and made a lot of rent or whatever when that was like a nightclub district. But as soon as Mario Cuomo changed the drinking age from 21 to 18, which was a political move, and the Canadians dropped their drinking age, that became a ghost town overnight. And so all those buildings had no value anymore. They couldn't get any rent, and boom, you see what you have today.
Yeah.
So
John, I think that this mayor or this fill in the blank elected official, they all want to do the best thing, and they just need to know what you think is the best thing. So between now and the next time you come on, I want you to be the Wizard of Oz and just say, you know what I need to be ultimately successful? It could be nothing. It could be, more water pressure to your building, or it could be, a space shuttle landing on your building. I don't know, but if they know what you need to be successful, I think they will do it. That's what they live for. So I'm just trying to discern in my life here, what do you need to be more successful at the Rapids Theater? And I want to know that the Rapids Theater is there. I want to go there. I want to do more things there, but I have to go now. I love that you came on this morning. Will you come up? Will you come back again sometime?
absolutely, whenever you want me.
John, thank you so much. Have a great Sunday.
Okay. Absolutely, you too.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, John Hutchins runs the Rapids Theater in Niagara Falls, and it's one of those things that hopefully you've been there and know what it is, but it's probably more famous internationally or nationally than it is to us in the retail trade of walking up and seeing it. We might see it a couple times a year when we have a desire to go to a show there, but artists know of the Rapids Theater probably and value it more than we even do. So anyway, it's great to see John on this morning, and hopefully he'll be back a bunch of times. Now, crime is a big issue. Crime is a complicated issue. And I read about a guy this week in Arkansas who made a terrible decision at age 17, served some time, but when he ended that time, he started a foundation that deals with people coming out of institutions and how they progress through the system. Civics is all of us. Civics is how do we stop people going in and making that decision at 17? How do we handle them when they come out because they've been rehabilitated or not? All of that is the rich ball of civics. So thankfully, Nick Robbins, who founded a foundation to do this, is with us this morning. So if we could bring in Nick to join us on this discussion, that'd be fantastic. Again, the civics component of crime from the inside coming out. And I think his organization was called Coming Home. Do we have Nick on the line? Nick. All right, here he comes. Hey, Nick, how are you? I gotcha. Did I describe that very well? What's the name of your organization?
Returning Home.
Returning Home. Give me a little history. You did, I mean, this was in the newspaper article that I read, but you made a terrible decision at 17. Kind of terrible because you admitted it. I mean, what the hell? They came to your house, you said, yeah, it's me, I did it. I mean, what was that all about? And then what did you do about it? Because it's what you've done since that horrible decision that's happened. So,
yeah, at a young age, I was on my own, about 15. So kind of bouncing around either family or living in a car or trailer, whatever I could find. And so ultimately, by the time I was 17, I committed 2 armed robberies to try to pay my rent. So that was obviously a poor decision, but led me to a place that typically wouldn't bring about life change. Corrections is not, you can't punish people into being better human beings, because if we truly believe that, we would have our daughters waiting at the bus stop for the next bus, the guys getting out of prison, so they can marry them because they'll be the best people ever because they've been punished the most. But instead, I had people intervene in my life, some organizations while I was incarcerated that believed in me more than I believed in myself, and it definitely changed my life.
But you have to be receptive to that too, because your story never ends with you being rehabilitated. I mean, I don't mean never, but you're more of an exception than a rule, which is why you founded the organization, which is why you're trying to, change the game. I mean, what made it different for you? Who reached you in prison? Usually it goes the other way. You go to prison and become a tougher criminal, a better criminal. It's a college course in becoming a criminal. How did it work out different for you?
Well, for the first 3 years, that was definitely the track I was on. I mean, right when I went to jail, I did what you're supposed to do. You find the biggest guy, you punch him in the mouth. That guy, when he got done beating me up, they sent me in the emergency room and stapled my head back shut. And then I went to the next prison. I got kicked out of it. And then the second prison I was in out of solitary for 60 days at a time for the first year. I was making a name for myself, and couldn't find out I was really good at doing prison time. I didn't want for anything. I didn't fear anybody. But then when I got to a certain position inside, it became clear to me that that was going to be the rest of my life. Like, that was all I was investing in, was the life that was within that place. And through me getting in more trouble, and because I moved around a lot, every time I screwed up, I went to the next place. So when I went to high school, a year and a half, I went to 4 different high schools. So every time I messed up, went to the next town, started high school, and lasted a shorter amount of time each situation. And so ultimately I ended up leaving a prison by joining a faith-based program, and for all the wrong reasons. And when I got there, a lot of volunteers and a lot of staff were waiting for me and to invest in my life, and told me things that I didn't believe in myself. They believed I had a future, and that I had a skill set that I wasn't aware of, and that I was a worthy investment, when I had never felt that way in my life. And so ultimately, because somebody stood in the gap and put up with my crap long enough, that it sparked something inside of me to take and run with that at that point.
So returning home, where does that start when somebody is leaving the incarceration system?
Yeah, so we've got 3 different components. The first one is the front of our building is for what we call walk-in clients. So people that live in the community that have a criminal history, sorry, a criminal past that's hindering the future they desire. So they could have been out 10 years ago and they're looking for an apartment, and now they can't find a place because everyone has the criminal record stuff on the apartment applications, so they can't get a place. Or it could be somebody that got out yesterday and they're walking in going, hey, I don't have anything. I need help with a job. I need help with counseling. I need food, clothes, hygiene, all that. But then we also have a reentry program. So the reentry program is for men only, men coming out of prison. And we work with individuals that are high to medium risk to reoffend. So we target the population that's most likely to go back. And we bring them into our residential program. And residential program is 90 days. They live with us. We do med management. They go weekly counseling. They go to class 2 hours every day. They work full-time job. They got a caseworkers, so staff 24 hours a day. And then we have an alternative program. So the community alternative program is for individuals that have low-level charges, that either got their charge and were immediately released and waiting to see a judge, or they're sitting in county jail. And those low-level charges, their attorneys can actually reach out to us and refer them to our program. And then if we accept them, the prosecutor would sentence them to us for 90 days. And so they actually come to us, and then they go through our residential program. It's in a therapeutic community. So we come from all different avenues, so we try to get ahead of it. The only thing we can't do, we're not like the Minority Report, where we know you're going to commit a crime before you commit the crime. and then reach out to that individual. So, but we do have those 3 different spots at the point in your life that we can assist somebody.
With all that experience, does that give you any insights into, like what put the gun in your hand, not yours, but anybody's hand before that? Like, like how do we stop? How do we have a better society? How, civics? I mean, how do we craft a better place to live so that we don't want that gun in your hand, or I know it's not a perfect world, but I mean, how do we attack it before it even starts? Is there a way?
Yeah. So what we expect of people is to have like the basic level of understanding to be a productive member of society. And that's where we go wrong, like at the very beginning, just our expectation. So if you want me to know how to manage my time, manage my finances, be a good employer, be a good student, be a good son, father, child, whatever the case may be, I need to learn that somewhere. And what if I didn't? What if it was my mom that shot me up with heroin when I was 13? What if when I was a kid at 8 years old, I was kept in a cage? What if I experienced sexual trauma, and because we are so bad at helping victims that we ignored you? What if I was in a single parent home and my mom was always working, so I never saw what an adult figure should look like in my life? That's the people we're serving.
Mm-hmm.
We're serving individuals that between 8 and 12 years old started using, and usually it's because they had some missing component that society didn't step up and fill that gap. And because it's so complicated, that's why we didn't. It's so much easier to wait till you do something wrong and put you behind bars, because that's a simple answer. But if I don't know how to read and write, which on average my clients have a 5th grade reading and writing level. So if my education stopped at 5th grade, the expectation is I need to be taught how to overcome my issues with reading and writing. Or if I have a co-occurring disorder, if I have mental illness and I grew up in a poverty setting, poverty deals with mental illness differently. You are told there's something wrong with you. You need to fix it within your own, the bootstrap yourself type of mentality, instead of, hey, you should probably go to therapy. We should probably identify what the issue is. We should probably consider medication. We can consider the more you know about that, the better you know how to react towards it. Maybe there's a different school setting that would work better with what you're dealing with. So it's very complex. It's not simple. And the things, they start at a very, very young age. And because we don't address those and do well with them when they're young, we really miss those signs that tell us this individual is going to struggle. Because so in the United States, in jail, there's 3 things that are common. 79% of people will have experienced physical trauma by 79% by the age of 12. And that's very significant. Go, everybody in jail, the majority of them, significant trauma at a young child while you're still developing. Over half of them have a mental illness, and then 80% of them have a substance abuse problem. So I have trauma and a mental illness, and how I try to cope is through substance abuse. And so now you're mad at me for using, but that's my coping mechanism, and you didn't teach me another one.
Yeah. Nick Robbins is with us today. He founded an organization called Returning Home. Nick, we've got a guy in Niagara Falls, and I think his name is Jedediah, and he's been written about in the paper multiple times, and he's been arrested over 100 times. I don't even say 100. I think it's 179. I mean, I'm way underselling it at 100. What the hell? I mean, like, at what point do we say this guy's mentally ill, stop arresting him and get him help? Is it just laziness? I mean, at what component of the criminal issue is that fall under? Why do they keep arresting the same person? We had a guy in Niagara Falls who was naked on his front porch for 3 years. Mm-hmm. It gets freaking cold here, Nick. What? I mean, people just throw their hands up. Thank God you're dealing with your specific slice of, you got in, you got out. Now we help people who are out. I'm asking, how do we get the gun out of your hand at 15? And I'm also asking, why do they pick up Jedediah over 100 times routine? It just becomes a routine thing. So anyway,
Yeah, so it's a
Jedediah's
couple
going to hurt
things.
somebody someday, but go ahead.
Yeah, first one is his lack of capacity. So with the most likely mental illness is significant in those situations. And the mental health field is lacking capacity. They're lacking the ability. They close down all the state hospitals. They very rarely, and I can only speak to my area where I live, there just aren't facilities that could take these individuals. I have people that come to us and we cannot work with that individual because of their level of mental illness.
Okay.
And yeah.
I interrupt all the time. It's not even a New York thing. I'm a jerk. But okay, money's not the problem. Why aren't we investing in that? Like if that's what put the gun in your hand at 15, because there were 20 Jedediahs who maybe became your father. I mean, so why aren't we investing that? Money's not a problem. We have unlimited amounts of money. So why
Tom,
do you think
they don't have a
do
voice? They don't have a voice, Tom.
I'm giving you a voice. You're the greatest person in my show.
No. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the individual. So the only time that the discussion truly moves is if somebody has a high level of capacity, wants it to move. So people that have mental illness, even if you have somebody in your family, it could be a politician and they aren't going to be speaking about their family member that has mental illness. It's not a topic that people are comfortable speaking about because it's not a topic anybody understands. So they don't, if I don't know how to cope with it, if there's not a silver bullet, I'm just going to ignore it. And it's the same thing with substance abuse. At least with substance abuse, you'll see facilities around. You'll see programs started. You will not see that for mental illness, not at that level. And the reason is because it's hard to understand it. And here's the big thing, Tom. With substance abuse, we can ultimately keep you dry enough to fix it. With mental illness, it's going to be with you for the rest of your life. So what do we do with this person for the rest of their life?
All right.
I mean, it's never ending. I had a guy, he was autistic. He was very acute with mental illness and how it manifested in inappropriate sexual comments, situations, to where we had to go, wow, I can't handle this individual. He needs to go somewhere. So we started calling somewhere. And guess what? There's no somewheres. Everyone's like, nope, not taking that guy. No, but you're a mental health facility. Yeah, that's just too much. I was like, well, we're a reentry facility. Of course it's too much for us. But then the other thing is that why we don't change the individual that continue to get incarcerated is because everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing. So you hire a police officer to keep the peace, which means arrest people. You hire a sheriff to oversee your jail. He is the largest housing provider in your area. We hire a judge to sentence people, so they're sentencing people. So everyone's doing their job. It's just you have a missing component. And that missing component is there's no advocacy for the other side. And when someone advocates, the judge, the sheriff, and the police department go, whoa, hold up. I don't believe in what you're talking about. We just need to keep doing what we're doing, but it's not working. Yeah, but I feel like if you keep advocating, you will negatively impact what I'm supposed to be doing every day. So when I go to arrest them, I'm supposed to do it differently. I'm supposed to evaluate them. So then I have to be trained on mental illness. My officers are low-paid officers. They're barely trained on if they should shoot people or not. We certainly are not going to be able to train them on mental illness. But that's one thing that's actually new, and hopefully it's happening in New York and Arkansas. It's within the last couple of years that is happening now. That officers are being trained to identify mental illness, and we have what's called CSU, so Crisis Stabilization Unit. They can actually send an individual to this unit, and they'll hold them for 72 hours to regulate them, so they don't have to go to jail. So, but it has very small capacity, and only can hold so many, but it's a great start. Yeah. And so if you don't have anybody, Tom, that's like funded by your city, those things won't happen. And I go in front of the Justice of the Peace and the council members all the time and go, you want this specific outcome, but I look through your budget and you aren't funding that. Yeah. So fund it. And you only fund what you believe. And so until somebody believes it, they're not going to fund it. And so it's not going to happen.
Right. Nick, do you think there's a a great talent pool that's being ignored. Like I always like to say, all of us are smarter than any of us because nobody has all the answers. But like yourself or your organization or all the people you work with, are they a part of crafting the community you live in, or are they just off to the side and being ignored? Or, I mean, I want to bring you and your organization into the discussion of building a city. Are you already doing that where you are, or are you being listened to, or,
Yeah. Yeah. So we've had good results. So the individuals that we work with in our area, poultry is the number one. I mean, we got Tyson and lots of other groups like within like a mile from my building. So poultry is a big one. So a guy will start at a really, really rough job. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
No one wants to do it. So they'll hire our people because no one wants to do it, which is amazing because they pay really well. Because again, no one wants to do it. And so by the time they get done with our 90-day program, majority of my guys are now on lead positions. I've got guys running plants now. I've got high level folks. So what happens, what we did was they're doing so well in our community. They're becoming such pillars in our community. We've got the support of the mayor. We got the support of the police department. I'm actually the co-chair on the criminal justice coordinating committee for our county.
Right. So that was my question. After they get a job and they're doing well and they're able to run the plant, are they able to run the volunteer fire department? Are they able to run for office? Are they able to become a PTA member? Or do we say drop dead? I mean, really, I mean, they're back. They've got this experience. They've got this knowledge.
No one believes they're totally back.
Yeah.
So most people, I've been out for 14 years and I've been in this field for 14 years. So I've done nationally, worked in Missouri, now work in Arkansas. And so because I didn't grow up in this area, no one really knew my story until they ran that article. And I had a lot of people reach out and go, wait a second, I had no idea. And so I'm able to walk through doors that other people aren't able to walk through because that's not how I'm walking through the door. I'm walking through as a successful reentry professional. And so really got to get so far away from your past that you're representing a different future. And so you're saying, hey, I'm coming to be on be a like even to be helping with your kids' football team, to be an assistant coach. The hoops you have to jump through to get that accomplished because of your background is nearly impossible. I've only seen 2 people accomplish it, and I've seen a lot of people try.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of barriers. So when we say, hey, I want you to be a successful member of society, a contributing member, but only within this parameters, not in society, just kind of on the outskirts of society.
Yeah. Nick, we always run out of time before we run out of interest. So I apologize, but I got to go.
Yeah.
Nick Robbins, returning home. Is it returninghome.com?
Yep.
Okay, beautiful. I'm going to follow it. I hope you'll come back and share some with us again. We need to bring you into the Civics answer. So thanks, Nick. Have a great Sunday. Go Bills.
You as well.
All right, bye-bye. All right, that was Nick Robbins. Nick did some time in prison. He held somebody up with a gun. I mean, this is not insignificant stuff. But when he came out, he founded an organization called Returning Home to help others prevent that so that this doesn't go on. And not only prevent, but I guess, deal with how they move forward. So thank God for that. A couple weeks ago, we were talking about, again, this issue of all of us being smarter than any of us, and crime is a problem. Anthony Pugh from Seattle joined us to talk a little bit about his situation and whether we can incorporate more people into the Civics project. So I challenged Anthony at that time. I said, you're going to have to come back and get involved. And he said, I'm in, put me in. So you know what? I called him up and I said it again. We're going to put him in. And Anthony Pugh from Seattle, and he brought, he told us this time he had this card game in while he was inside, and it was basically the United Nations. He had this, he had that, he had, very diverse group of compatriots. So I think he's replicated that on the outside. He's brought Grady with him today as well. So Grady Mitchell. So without further ado, let's bring in Anthony Pugh and Grady Mitchell from Seattle to have a discussion about civics. Grady, that must be you because I haven't seen you before. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm awake.
You're awake, yeah. A little different time in Seattle, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're kind of wearing a
But
Bills color there. You know, we're big in football in this area, and that's a Bills blue. So thank you for you obviously thought about it. Thank you for thinking about us ahead of time.
Actually, it's a granddaughter's blue. She purchased this for me. So
It's Buffalo's shirt. It's a Buffalo shirt. And there's Anthony. How are you? Anthony, thanks.
I'm great.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
So you've heard some of what I've been talking about this morning. It's a great myth that you ever really know what you're talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. I just know we have a problem. And we're at a time when, civics is really at a low point. Society is not doing very well. Crime is just a part of it. The whole thing kind of needs to be rebuilt. I hate being political. So Build Back Better is associated with the current president. Let's forget that. But I love that term, Build Back Better. I can't imagine a place than where I live, or maybe where you live, which couldn't be rebuilt better right now. Money's not a problem. There seems to be more money than you've ever imagined in your wildest dreams. If we're the Wizard of Oz, if we had unlimited money and perfect health and lots of time, what would we do? That's where I always want to start. And so I sense the answer to this question is already, we're not talking to enough people about what we want in the perfect city. And one whole component of that are people who have been on the other side of the crime issue. I have not been on your side of the crime issue. I do read the papers, and we have a crime problem. I wouldn't even say that's a violent crime problem. We have a lot of white collar crime, a lot of money being stolen from all over the place that we just are blind to. We don't want to look at that crime. Can you help? So can you help this discussion in some way? Is my overall question. I think you can, right?
Yeah, with our unique view of how long each one of us did in prison, Grady and I have been friends for 26 years. And we have a unique view of watching guys come in and out from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Like Nick's been trying to help people from the outside after he did a little bit of time. We watched him come in. And so we both talked to a lot of guys that came in and out. And it's like, why did you come back in? Yeah. And one of the things that Grady and I seen a lot of is support out here.
You have seen a lot.
Yeah, that's the biggest complaint that we've seen guys make is support out here.
Oh, really? So they get no support. When you're discharged, what do you get? A bus ticket and $40, or what happens upon leaving?
Yeah, and for a few guys, you can get, if you are willing to go past your release date, you can get $500 a month for 3 months to go to this halfway house, which most of the time is sharing a bedroom with 3 other guys.
Yeah.
So you really have nothing other than that.
Yeah.
And me, when I got out without a single human being to help me.
Well, 26 years is a long time. You went in at 17 or 15?
I went in at 15, got out at 42. So I did 27 years. Grady did over 30.
Now, not only must all of your friends and family moved on with their lives, but cell phones didn't exist. Computers really didn't exist. Do you walk into a Star Wars situation that is beyond comprehension? What happens? I mean,
no, surprisingly, you can get a hold of a lot of technology in prison.
Legally or illegally?
Legally.
Really?
I was taught computer programming in prison.
Interesting. Can you do anything with it on the outside, or will nobody hire somebody who is on the inside?
My problem when I got out is I got out in the heart of COVID.
Right.
April 27th last year, there was not a single business working.
Right. And that mattered.
Yeah. And so it actually expedited the plan that I had of building my own business.
Mm-hmm. And your business you wanted to build was what? Physical construction? You're a carpenter?
Yes, I'm a master carpenter and a certified electronic technician. So I run a handyman company.
Where did you learn carpentry? Inside?
Yeah.
Okay. Grady, you similar situation. How old were you when you went in?
My situation was a little bit different. I was 24 when I was incarcerated, my first time ever. And I was released when I was 62. I served 37 years and was granted commutation.
And did you feel rehabilitated? Was this a good way to spend 30 years?
Yeah, define rehabilitation.
Right.
Absolutely. So I would say that I won't say it was a good way. There's never, when you have to face that carceral setting, there's never a good way to face that because it affects so many people.
Yeah.
I mean, it affects people to get there. It affects people once you're there. It affects people once you release. So the cause and effects, I mean, it's going to have a negative impact. But there's been some interesting concepts. You brought up a lot of different points. I'm going to try to encapsulate in about 3 minutes if I could.
Sure.
You know, me and Anthony have been on each other, and we've mentored hundreds of men. And so currently, I am Corrections and Reentry Program Director for an organization called Roots of Success. This is based in Berkeley, California. It's a work readiness job training program, environmental literacy. So, and if we go back, after serving 37 years, Tom, you know, Nick said something very interesting about the mental health component of this. After serving 37 years, I was given, like you said, I wasn't even given a bus ticket because now they just take you to your house and just drop you off and that's it. So they gave me $40, but no one asked me, hey, do you need mental health counseling? Do you need any mental health support services? After that huge amount of time, and I was totally amazed at just that aspect of it, you know, especially after, like you said, cell phones weighed about 30 pounds and only the military had them and, you know, things like that. And so that whole concept of getting adjusted to things and the computers, Anthony, Charlie's an intelligent guy and impressed with him. Absolutely. That guy could read something and you'll be in trouble if you think he forgot what he's read. So, and so he's really good, but a guy like myself, and I'm not dumbing down my level of intelligence at all. But me, I'm more kinesthetic. You know, you have to get me in the mix a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and just making that, you know, adapting to that, and then the whole experience of family. And it's just so much that we encounter. And then top it off with, why did we go in the first place? You know, so I also find myself dealing with that. In other words, man, I have to go back and I think not pay homage, but go back and see if I can just psychologically make something right, make a wrong right.
Now, Civics is just a big not-for-profit. It's the government, right? And they take money from all of us, taxes, to put into a pool because it's bigger than any individual. And so we deal with everything. Let me take the other side, which I don't believe, but let me take the other side is, screw you. We locked you away and it's your life, not mine. You did something wrong, drop dead. I mean, you know, that's what a lot of people would believe as well. And maybe, you know, it's the other side of the coin. You know, let's look at it from all sides. That couldn't be any further from my belief, but I mean, that's what a lot of people believe. Is that what we should do now? You're out, you're on your own. Or are you a productive person who could say, I saw how this happened. I'm now 62. I think we should do it different. Like
Absolutely, it's not how it should happen. And here's a really great reason, because it's already happening. So we don't have to worry about it. It's happening to some people. So if you get an individual that encounters that and don't know how to overcome that obstacle, and I've encountered on a couple of occasions, and I'm a believer of taking setbacks and turning them into setups for success. So, but what happens is now you tend to give that individual an avenue, and this is part of the whole civics problem. You asked the question, I mean, how can we try to curb this or prevent this, or what can we do? You have to really address the fact that sometimes these are all individuals know. This is all they know is criminality. You know, the old adage, it takes a village to raise a child, but if you get a child from a village full of criminals, what kind of child you gonna get? You know what I mean?
Carve that in marble. Yeah, carve
we-
that in marble, right?
Right. We have to understand that. So, so what you have to do is that individual now needs more intense training, say myself or Anthony. His intensity on his release needs to be much greater. And here's the benefit of that: when society say, you know what, you did your time, screw you, and forget it. Now that individual, as wrong as it, I won't say wrong, as ugly as it may seem, now has an excuse to say, you know what, let me go back to doing what I know. Let me go back to doing the things that I know how to do.
Right.
And so now they're affected again. So we perpetuate that sometimes with that mentality. It's as opposed to getting individuals. I mean, on a monthly basis, a group of us get together. We got guys in T-Mobile offices, guys working for trade unions, got Anthony. I own my own business. I mean, so it's like we really have to understand this whole picture. Now, if we want to continue this, the Department of Corrections is going to do everything they can to stay in business. And another thing about the money, you hit it right on the head, Tom. You hit it right on the head. And I made a little note that when people start using money for a good vision, it's great. But when they fail in the mission, that's where a lot of the problem is coming in, because a lot of people are just going for the money, going for the money. You know, I volunteer my time. I work with Department of Corrections in Washington State, volunteer.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care about honorariums. I don't care about that. I volunteer it because I really care about the mission.
Yeah. Anthony, I want to bring you and Grady and others into this. And I almost think there was a computer game called Sim City at one time. I don't know if it still exists, right? Where if you put this bridge here, traffic starts to go there or whatever. You know, we could talk about, you know, prison life and not prison life, or construction and not construction. But if we don't focus on one thing, like if you're trying to teach me woodworking, teach me on this piece of wood with this one machine. So I want to focus on one city. You don't live here, but it's okay. I think you can get as much as you want through these Zoom calls and online research. Could I recruit you to, let's build this one city. Let's figure out where we are. I'll provide us with all this information. I'll try and put models together and get all this information, and we'll take one place and we'll say, you know what? There is no policing, or there is no criminal justice, or there is too many people in jail, or there's not enough services. We can actually have those discussions about a dollar value actually spent. Not we're not spending enough. Here's what we're spending and what we're getting, cause and effect. Like I think unless we can become specific about something, we can't actually have these meaningful discussions. We spent $1, we got nothing in return, or we spent $1, we got something in return. Is that make sense as we move forward?
Yeah, it does. And honestly, like in the Concerned Lifers organization that I was involved with while I was inside, one of the things we talked a lot about was the school to prison pipeline. And a lot of this, we need to start focusing on pre-criminal behavior. And I think if you started working on that side, the other side would start helping itself.
Yeah, it's a total picture. What put the gun in Nick's hand? Something did. How do we stop putting the gun in Nick's hand?
And now that schools are started back up, I'm going to start going in and talking to middle school kids and high school kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a video, and I've been trying to find it, but I can't get a hold of it because my mother passed away before I got out of prison. But it was called I'm Another You. And we had every major gang leader talking on this video about, look, this is what brought me in here. Please don't follow my path.
Mm-hmm.
And Grady's starting a mentorship program that's going to mentor guys that are getting out. But that mentorship program also should be looking at guys that are on their way of following us in for 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And none of this is in a vacuum. The world's going through some convulsions now. You can't just go to high school, get out, get a trade, and work. I mean, you can maybe, but you can't go to high school, go to college, get a job and work. Like, it's always in an upheaval. Maybe jobs aren't available. Maybe you didn't go to college. Maybe you don't want to become a plumber. But I mean, you got to become something. And we don't talk about that. We don't mentor people who are 8 years old. We don't mentor, we mentor them after they're 62 and did 30 years. Well, they pretty much know where they are in life, but we don't mentor them at 8 years old. We don't know we have to, I mean, we don't know what puts that gun in somebody's hand. We have to stop. Grady, go ahead.
Say just very quickly, we're talking about prevention, and prevention is a very strong model, and it's hot off the press. My grandson had a football game. The game got canceled because someone brought a gun to his high school. I've been contacting high schools. So I have a group of men that would like to come in and have lived experience, would like to address your student body. No callbacks. Called them 3 times. No callback. I have a grandson at this high school. I'm really a concerned grandfather. I have a group of guys coming in. So it's not the fact that we don't have people willing to go in and try the preventive stuff, because Anthony's correct. If we prevent it, they don't go. So sometimes it's just that uphill climb, Tom.
It seems like we have, say, in Nick's case, or what you just described, ex-convicts talking to ex-convicts. But I think we need ex-convicts talking to non-ex-convicts. And certainly school kids, but the school kids' parents. Like you need to be brought into everything, not just something. I mean, I'm glad that Nick is working with ex-cons but work with me to understand, that they're worth talking to, that they're not, put in a slag heap and only talking to each other. That just makes silos that we don't all coexist on. And then not everybody's rehabbed. And so I don't, what if I trust an ex-con and I trusted the wrong one? Do we throw out the whole thing? I mean, somehow we have to break down these barriers and all talk. And, I live in some fantasy world, but we are right at a cusp of building cities better. And we need all these discussions wherever they go. We need to herd the cats, so to speak. I always get to that point. I don't know what to do. But
we need ex-cons talking to civic leaders.
Talking to all of us.
Yes.
Talking to all of us. Unashamedly. The gun was in your hand. Get over it. Tell me about it. Because I only get my information from movies otherwise. And movies aren't really right. I mean, there's some right. There's a lot wrong. But if that's the only place I'm going to get my information, then
you're always going to be misinformed.
I'm going to be misinformed and led down the wrong street. So,
Tom, you brought a really interesting point about the parents of children, and that's that's a very, very important element of this whole thing, because we can talk to the kids, but the parents have to reinforce the message. They have to reinforce what they're hearing and start understanding about this whole cycle, this whole wheel. Because if you don't understand something, you're gonna make a whole bunch of mistakes. You know what I mean? But if you can see the picture, if someone could draw you that picture and say, hey, and then have an individual that they can reach out to in their time of need or question, that's when the real preventative cycle starts working then. Because it reinforces, it's a continual reinforcement. Because if the kids aren't getting it from home, they're getting it from their friends. They're getting it from their peers,
And so many people, it's not even rare, are working 3 jobs. Yes. And they're single parents for whatever reason. Well, there's not enough hours in the day to care for your kid. I mean, one job's got to go, or the kid's got to go, and you don't eat someday, you eat today. So we got a lot of problems to work on, but we're not working on them. We're still kind of trying to take the money and put it somewhere else. And like Nick said, we don't have the right focus. So
we're not working on them, Tom, because of that perception that you said. Some people think, you know what, man, you did a crime. You done been in prison for 30 years. You got what you deserve. To hell with you. That's how come it's not working. Instead of saying, man, this dude has some experience. Let's understand this a little better.
I think we can keep both thoughts in our heads. I can say your garbage go away, and yet I want to suck your brain out of what you experienced. Like I don't have to believe you're, I mean, I gotta go. I gotta go now. It's midnight on the East Coast. I don't always deal in facts, right? But somewhere it's later on the East Coast than it is where you are. Guys, I can't thank you enough. We have to talk offline. We have to talk more. And let's try and craft together before we talk next time some things that we could do, some things that I could do for you to give you the tools to do those things for us. Give you the information to know about Niagara Falls specific, because what you know in Seattle, it exists here. I can get you that data and you can say, well, if you're spending your money only here, it ain't going to get you here, that kind of stuff. We can focus on one place called Niagara Falls, which everybody knows that brand, but we don't know the details. We'll get the details and start to say, well, that ain't going to work, or this will work, or, I want you ultimately to move here, to choose this as your home, because it is the best place on earth. I don't want to falsify it. I want this to be the best place on earth.
Too much crime there, Tom.
That's the quote of the day. You're not coming here because there's too much crime. Where did you find this guy, Anthony? Where did you find this?
Yeah.
Grady Mitchell, Anthony Pugh, I can't thank you enough. Appreciate it.
All right.
Have a great Sunday.
You too.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for everybody for watching and participating. We'll see you next Sunday. Thanks.
Bye.